We are here today with Frank Calderon. Thank you for coming in today, Frank.
Thanks for having me.
It's good to see you back.
Good to
I've
be back.
been doing these shows now for a couple of weeks, so this is going to be the second time we'll sit and talk. And on the topic today is hurricane season that is fast upon us. It starts June 1st and ends, I believe, at the end of September, correct?
I
Or
think it's
no, a little
October,
later
the
than
end of
that,
October or
end of
November. I'm not
October.
sure.
Well, we've had storms go on
We had
really,
storms
really
into
late. I think
November.
last year we had a storm that came in
I
late
don't
too,
remember.
right?
I don't remember, but we've the last 10 or 15
It
years
was
we've had some
the
late
hurricane
storms.
that
That's for
hit
sure. Later than
the
I
Gulf
remember.
Coast, that hit Fort Myers and
Oh yes, Ian.
Ian.
I
That's
did
what it
that.
was.
That hit September, if I'm not mistaken. But still, that's kind of late-ish
Yeah,
in the season.
yeah,
If
yeah.
I'm not mistaken, it's September, maybe October. I don't remember exactly.
Well, the reason we're talking about hurricane season is because you guys have a tall order. Because when a storm hits, there is a lot of stuff that are just sitting in the streets, branches, trees, garbage, especially other people's garbage if they didn't secure their garbage bins prior to the storm hitting. What do you advise as far as hurricanes? Like, if, for example, if it's a tropical storm, is it okay if we just leave it out versus, it's a Cat 3 and we should probably bring it inside?
Well, with a tropical storm, obviously the winds aren't as strong, but they are still strong enough that they can push your cart around, cause damage to it, cause other problems. That's why one of the tips we give our residents once is for certain that a storm is coming our way, is to secure their carts somewhere inside their, preferably inside the house. If you have a garage, that would be a good place, or utility, a small utility shack or something in your house, in your backyard, for example. That would be a good place for it. But yeah, to secure it indoors because it can fly. It can fly. It can cause damage to your car, to a neighbor's car, to your house, or a neighbor's house. In which case you could be liable. Trying to get a replacement after a storm is not going to be fast. We'll go work as fast as we can, but after a storm, there's a lot of stuff going on, and it's harder to replace a missing card because of the storm. The other issue too is, as I was telling you before the show, you can probably go on YouTube or some other video channel online and probably find videos of garbage and or recycling carts in other areas of the country when it rains a lot and there's a lot of flooding, just drifting down.
Yeah, they just
You might
float.
your cart might end up going into the next street over or whatever if there's a lot of rain. And if it's in good shape and somebody who lives there has a bad shape, they'll take your cart.
Yeah.
I mean, unfortunately,
And
that
then
happens.
you
So
gotta get yourself a new one. So long story short, it sucks to have to put your garbage bin inside your house because it's not gonna smell the greatest. But you pay in the short term in order to avoid having trouble in the long term, whatever it happens to be. Least case scenario, nothing happens and you got lucky.
yeah,
But worst case scenario,
yeah.
you're dealing with damages because your garbage bin flew into someone else's, window, or um, you don't have a garbage disposal anymore, and you got a giant tree in front of your house. So garbage collection isn't going to be coming in anytime soon, and now you have no place to store your garbage for the next week. And so
Yeah.
that's going to be another big issue, and you're going to end up with garbage in your garage anyway. So at the end of the day, it's probably better to just play it safe, and
You could always
err
wash it
err on
out
the
a little
side of
bit too.
caution.
If that's a concern, you can always wash it out a little bit too. We always tell people you can wash it a little bit, to maintain it. There are actually companies. We don't recommend anybody in particular, but that's an option that will come to your house and they'll wash your carts. So yeah, something you want to do anyway from time to time. So it might be a
Right.
good time to do it right before a storm comes in, and that way you can put it inside
Mhm.
your house and not have to worry.
Here's the other thing: even if you leave your garbage bin out, and I've had this conversation with mosquito control actually. If you leave your garbage can out, and you get lucky, it's probably going to be filled up with water, which is going to be a hotbed for mosquitoes because it's going to be sitting water, and no one's going to be cleaning that garbage bin out anytime soon, and you're going to be dealing with a massive mosquito problem because it's going to turn into
That is,
open
yeah,
season for them.
that's a potential problem. Yeah, one thing, even if you're conscientious about that and you tip it over, if there's a lot of rain, that cart could be heavy and
Yeah.
full. It's going to be hard to tip over, without causing some kind of damage or without spilling water all over the place.
Mhm.
So it's better to bring it inside.
Yeah.
If you have a garage, that's a good place for it. If you don't, just bring it into like a utility room or something like
Yeah.
that.
So you work with garbage disposal and garbage collection specifically. When a storm hits, how do you guys handle the process behind trying to get trucks out there to keep things going, make sure that people can still have their garbage disposed of? How do you guys deal with
For
the severity of various kinds of
for
storms?
operations, we typically, we plan before, we plan in advance. We make sure all the vehicles have fuel, they're fueled up. We try to get out there as quickly as possible. As far as like picking up like the regular garbage pickup that we do twice a week for most of our customers, we try to get out there as quickly as we can. As a matter of fact, I was just looking at stuff from Hurricane Irma recently in 2017, and Hurricane Irma, if I'm not mistaken, hit on Monday. I don't know if it was Labor Day Monday or the Monday after, but it hit on a Monday in early September, early-ish or mid September
Right.
when it hit in 2017. And we, of course, a hurricane is hitting us, so no garbage pickup that
Yeah.
day. But we actually, boom, the next day, the Tuesday, as soon as the storm cleared, we went right back to picking up garbage like normal. And for those that we missed that day, we had a special makeup day for them Wednesday, which we don't normally
Gotcha.
pick up, but we did a special makeup for Wednesday so they wouldn't have all that garbage accumulating. So we do everything in our power to make sure that we restore service as quickly as possible when it
Right.
comes to garbage pickup.
So let me ask you this then. Can people expect once the hurricane is safely out of the city or the county, can they, even if it's not their pickup day, can they just put their bins out there if it's safe to do
Well,
so, right? Can they put their bins out there and just if you
even
guys
if
happen
it's
to
not
come by?
Well, even if it's not, generally we'll make an announcement
Okay.
of some sort. We'll assess quickly what our operational assets are. If anything was damaged or if we're able to operate. Part of it is, of course, is something else that we do. The streets maybe covered in debris, and it's difficult. What happens a lot of times when we know that streets are covered in debris, we'll tell residents to not necessarily put the cart in front of their house, but to like the edge of the debris to put it there, and we'll come pick it up. And then on their day, when it's their day, once we've restored service, we do generally try to restore service as quickly as possible. We did it after Irma. The day of the hurricane, we didn't obviously pick up for obvious
Right.
reasons, but the day after, as soon as the storm cleared, boom, we were out there picking up garbage. That may not happen all the time; depends on the severity of the storm. But we'll make typically announcements. And I should note also that anything once the hurricane, we're in a hurricane warning type of situation, or even a tropical storm warning. A lot of announcements, official announcements from the county, including ours, are going to come through the county's Office of Emergency Management.
Okay.
So they have their social media, so the stuff is going to go through them. And we'll of course we'll share and retweet on our own social media accounts, but they kind of manage everything, and that'll include any special announcements having to do with garbage, collection and that sort of thing.
Yeah. So keep an eye on announcements made by the county. Obviously, people spend a lot of time keeping an eye on announcements by NOAA regarding hurricane season. Adding another website to that list is not too much of a tall order. If you happen to have internet, if your power's out and you don't have internet, then
Yeah,
it's a little trickier. I know in my area, it's a reception dead zone. So if we don't have Wi-Fi, internet reception is rough.
we
So
do
it's tricky.
as a county. We generally advise people have some kind of battery operated radio, or maybe the kind that you hand crank or whatever.
Right.
Just because that may end up being the only method of communication you have
Mhm.
for a while, depending on again on the severity of the storm and how power outages and internet outages
Yeah.
and that sort of thing. So
So
that's always a good idea.
Miami-Dade County got lucky last year because the hurricane that came in, Hurricane Ian,
Ian ended
was
up getting away from us, but it went towards the west coast and it really
it was.
slammed them.
I
It
mean,
really
there's
did really
there's
bad.
hotels over there that still haven't opened because they're still cleaning up
There are a
like
lot of places, yeah.
debris and stuff. It takes a while, especially if it's a storm that hits as hard as Ian did, Andrew, Katrina, all those kinds of big storms like
Yeah.
that. How come? What sorts of things can delay the cleanup process for debris disposal and whatnot?
A lot of different things can happen. The roads have to be cleared out. That takes some time to do properly. We tried to get after Irma. With Irma, we didn't have a lot of, thankfully, didn't have a lot of massive destruction when Irma hit. But what we did have a lot of, and it was very widespread, and it wasn't just us; it was pretty much statewide. You had a lot of us debris blocking the streets, like tree limbs, other trash, and stuff like that. So that was a massive undertaking to clean all that up. Of course, we try to operate as quickly as possible. We have contractors that we count on to do a lot of the heavy lifting on that, which they did. It took us, I was just reviewing Irma history just a few days ago. It took us about 90 days. I think by Thanksgiving, we got the bulk of the waste, out of the way, out of the streets. And, of course, we focus, there's triage. You do try to focus on the big streets first to allow the most people to be able to go out. But yeah, we split the county up into a series of grids, and we removed the debris that way. I think the Fort Myers area, Lee County, I saw something recently. I don't know if they were finished or close to finished with at least the debris on the streets, that sort of thing. Debris obviously on people's property takes some time to do, but those are the sort of things. In the case of Lee County, for example, also you'll have islands when the bridges go out. I understand they repaired some of the bridges there rather quickly, but when the bridges go out, that's another issue. If there's no bridge, then everything's slower. You have to get barges and boats to take equipment out there, and that's more complex than just driving over a bridge.
Yeah.
But they did get I know they got a few bridges out there done rather quickly, and at least temporarily patched so they can bring over stuff. So they were able to do a lot of stuff there rather quickly.
Yeah, I don't know the specifics of it, but I imagine a lot of the causeways that go to Key Biscayne and Miami Beach and whatnot are specifically built to be extremely resistant to heavy storms. I know, at least in the when I was visiting Naples a few years back, before obviously Ian hit, the many of the islands there didn't have bridges at all. They were just access only by boat, and they had maybe like 5 houses, like on each of these islands. It's close to the island chain on the restaurant, next to the restaurant where Burger in Paradise is right there. Cheeseburger in Paradise. Yeah.
Cool.
But a lot of
Cajun Navy,
yeah,
they call it. Boats going out and helping people out. That happened a lot in from what I understand, the Lee County area as well. But yeah, they did. I think one of the bridges was less than a week or something like that. They got out. That was pretty remarkable. And that helps because they can bring the heavy equipment in to clear the streets out, clear the other debris out. The homes that unfortunately were severely damaged, and other buildings that were severely damaged. I think Sanibel Island and Captiva Island were 2 of the big islands that were in the eye of the storm, or closed. Yeah. They were hard hit, and one of those 2. The Captiva doesn't have exactly a bridge to the mainland, if I'm not mistaken. I've been there a few times. Sanibel does, and then you get on Sanibel, and then there's a bridge that goes over to Captiva.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wonder if the Bubble Room made it though. That's a very, very nice restaurant there. One of our favorite places. I don't know if they made it or not. I think the building was intact after I saw on social media, but I don't know if they're open or not. I'll have to check that out. Right. But yeah, they did a good job with that. And then of course that helped them clean up debris from the streets and the debris from private property and stuff like that. Which that's a whole different level. We didn't have that when Irma hit here because we didn't have the level of destruction that they had on private buildings and stuff like that. Fortunately, we were spared in a way. We did have the debris on the streets, and that was annoying, and we did get a lot of people calling, and they wanted to be the first to be picked up. We have a widespread 320 square mile area we're responsible for. It's impossible to get everybody first.
Yeah.
The way we did it was we did one pass first to get like the bulk of it, and then we did a second pass. And once we finished the second pass, we declared that we were done by then. By then, there was very little that was left.
Gotcha. And so the next thing I do want to talk about is Hurricane Survival Tips 101. How to prepare your house, how to prepare your you mentioned garbage bins should be secured inside the house. Run me through a little bit of what the county recommends for hurricane preparation.
Well, in general terms, I mean, I can only talk about solid waste, but in general terms, the stuff that the county does, the Office of Emergency Management, their website has a lot of tips and information. The county usually puts out every year a hurricane guide for each season. I don't know if they probably are close to printing them. I don't know if they mail them out to everybody or not, but they are available online on the Office of Emergency Management's website. And it's certain county offices you can go and get a hard copy if you want. But as far as for us, one of the big things is, one of the causes of damage is tree limbs, from, either tree limbs, a tree that's maybe old or whatever, the tree limb is not in good shape, and then it falls on a roof or something, or causes damage, or it falls on something, it causes damage wherever it lands because it's big and heavy. Our advice is, if you have trees that where you need to trim some of those limbs off, the time to do it is now, because hurricane season is going to start in 2 weeks. And once you do it, you can call for a bulky pickup, for us to come and pick it up. Very important to note now, we have an appointment system. You can either call 311 or you can go to our website, miamidade.gov/solid waste. And you can go there, set an appointment date. You can see the list of dates available from a pull-down menu. If you call, they'll tell you the list of dates, the most recent, the closest dates that you have. The time to do it is now, though, before, if a storm is coming, it may be too late.
Yeah.
It may be too late. So the time to do it is now. As I understand it, there's nothing threatening at the moment.
Right.
So we don't have to worry about any early storms. That was something else we were talking
Yeah.
about before the show. About we really haven't seen a lot of early storms.
It's
here,
rare to get them.
at least here. I don't remember too many July storms either. I think August seems to be when they
August,
start
September. Yeah. Well,
late
Ian
August.
came in September.
Yeah, Andrew hit August, late August. I still remember that one.
Take
a lot of people still remember that one.
Yeah.
So, but we tend to here, we really haven't seen a lot. That doesn't mean it can't happen, but we really haven't seen a lot early on. But now's the time to do it before. Yeah, now's the time to do it. If you're gonna do that, if you know you have trees that could potentially cause a problem and cause damage, now's the time to get with the whoever, your gardener or whatever, to chop those limbs up and set the bulky appointment to have it picked up, and then you don't have to worry about it. Usually, I'm not an arborist here, but usually if you've gotten any of your tree limbs or whatever taken care of 1 year, that might be good for a few years.
Yeah.
It depends on the nature of the tree, of course. You do have to take a look and may have a professional even take a look and make recommendations, but yeah.
So there are multiple kinds of trees native to Miami that are well suited for surviving hurricanes, palm trees being the most famous ones, obviously. How do people know if their tree does the Miami-Dade County website have a list of high risk, trees that may or may not cause issues if a hurricane is strong enough to pull it out of the ground?
I know that RER, DERM, which is under the auspices of the RER department, which is now, they're still called DERM, now they're the Division of Environmental Resources Management. They have had a program in place, and they still have it, I think, called Adopt a Tree, where they basically provide free trees for people to plant. They usually let you take 2 a year or something like that. I'm not 100% sure. But check out their website, RER. The trees are native trees that are suitable, and they give you instructions on, don't grow it under a power line. You're getting a little tree now, but it's like a pet. Oh, look, this baby alligator is so cute. Let me bring it home. And then it starts to grow, and you're like, oh my gosh, what do I got to do?
Yeah.
Same principle of the tree. They give you a little tree, it's going to grow. They usually give you, depending on the species of tree, they'll tell you, don't grow here, don't grow there. Follow whatever instructions they give. Whenever they have these events where they give these trees out, you can go to their website and find out. I'm pretty sure, 99% sure they're going to have information on there as well, like for what are native trees. If they don't have it directly on the website, most likely links. You can also just do a search for that, native trees that are good to plant in South Florida, in Miami-Dade, that sort of thing, to find what are the best trees to have. I can tell you that some trees are not native and they don't do well. One of the famous ones, they're nice, they provide a lot of shade, the so-called black olive tree that has these little fruits. I don't think they're edible, but they look like black olives. And they typically, whenever the season comes, they fall, and then they stain your nice white car if you have a white car.
Yeah.
They stain the paint on it like a purplish stain. That tree, we had one, the property where I live, it's a condominium, and it fell. It fell after we had a lot of rain. It wasn't I don't know if it was, no, it wasn't this year. It was last year. At some point, some time in the year, we had a lot of rain, and it just the rain just weakened, and it's an old tree. So those trees may not be the best to plant, but if you can't find it on their website, do a search.
Right.
And they should have. I know that they do a lot on trees, so they should have some information on the
I know
website about trees.
the trees that line the roads on Old Cutler, the ones that have
Mhm.
those drapey looking vines that hang off of it. Those have,
Those are the black olives, I think. The ones that have like the thin looking vines.
yeah, they, kids would
Yeah,
swing
yeah,
on and
yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
'Cause those have shallow roots and they're
Yes.
massive. When they're old, they
Yes.
get huge.
And if it's
It falls
enough
over,
wind,
and
it
it's
can
like
fall
this
over. Yeah.
massive pit in the ground. I had one in my
those
old
are the black olive trees. Yeah.
my old home. Had one that was right in between. It was, we had an old, we had our driveway out front, and then our neighbor had, their house next to
Mhm.
ours, and then in between our front driveways was a massive, black olive tree.
Yeah.
And it fell over, I think, during when Katrina hit, and we just had like massive roots just hanging over our driveway that was providing shade, thankfully. But it was,
They are nice
pretty
shade
annoying.
trees, but they are not native. And I'm not, I don't pretend to be the tree expert. I kind of know a little bit about this tree because I've
Yeah.
seen them my whole life here. But yeah, I would advise going to RER's website and looking on there for information on trees and which ones are natives and which ones are good to grow. Or if not, just do a search. There's a lot of resources out there. You have the UF IFAS Extension Center in Homestead. They might be able to help as well because they're geared towards that agriculture. So yeah, so those are some places you can go and get information on good trees to plant for shade or whatever you want to grow.
I remember a lot of the resources around the state, both from an entertainment standpoint and from a official governmental standpoint, was geared towards preparing people for hurricane season, getting them ready, especially after Andrew hit. I know Miami-Dade County specifically made sure that they were as hurricane proof as possible. Miami-Dade and Broward. So a lot of both of our counties are very strict as far as building codes go to make sure that everything is up to standard. I know part of the issue for why um, the Marco Island, Captiva, Sanibel, Fort Myers area got hit so hard was because um, a lot of their buildings were not as,
Older,
yeah,
and not up to
and
that,
so
that level of code.
they've got some cleaning up to do as well. And the problem is oftentimes is that the harder debris to clean up is rubble. It's easier to get some branches and
Yeah.
leaves and clean those up. But if it's a
Rock,
stone column,
cement, yeah,
a
that's
chunk
hard
of a
to clean up.
building, a
That's hard to
roof,
clean up and dispose of.
yeah,
There are actually centers that will handle that sort of material, and I don't know the process. We don't personally, but I don't know the full process. But I know some of those construction materials may be recyclable, but I'm not an expert on that field. So, but yeah, otherwise it's just rock and stone, and only way to dispose of that is put a hole in the ground and bury it.
yeah.
Landfill, basically.
Hmm.
So
As it pertains to you and at garbage collection and management, what would you say people could do for your particular department that would be most helpful to them now come hurricane season?
well, like I mentioned before, if you're gonna do any tree trim, preferably you would have done it already. But now, before the season starts, it's a good time to do it before the demand gets high. To do the tree trimming part, which is not really our thing. Our thing is the disposal afterwards. And especially if you call for bulky waste pickup, if your gardener or landscaper agrees to take the stuff, well, they probably charge you extra if they do. But if they agree to take the stuff, then it's not an issue for you. But if you have to coordinate the pickup with us, yeah, now's the time to plan to do it before hurricane season starts. Before if a storm is coming, at some point they lock it down. You cannot request any more bulky waste pickups because they have X number of crews and trucks to go out there, and they might have Y number of pickups that are still pending. They have to finish those first before they can take on new ones.
Yeah.
So at some point, we make an announcement and say, that's it, we're closing down. We're only going to handle the ones that are still pending, but we're not taking any new ones. So waiting for the last minute, and now that we have an appointment system, because the past was basically, you call today and they tell you, okay, you can set it out today. They might come anytime between today and 8 days from now. That was the past. Now it's like they give you a specific date. You can set it out 3 days before.
Right.
And if a storm is coming between our operationally, the limits that we can manage between that and between the demand,
Right.
the days are going to go fast.
Yeah.
So that's why we say do it now. If you know you need to get it done, do it now, so that you don't have to worry about it when a storm is coming. Now that said, we do have the self-help centers, trash and recycling centers. We have 13 of them. If you're a customer, you can use them. But that means you got to take the stuff yourself. And we don't allow commercial vehicles of a certain size. If they're too big, they're considered to be commercial. So you might have to make a couple trips depending on how much debris you have, versus having our truck come and pick up 25 cubic yards. If you have a lot, if we have double that amount, they can combine, and you have the 2 pickups available that you're entitled to each year. You can combine both into one big pickup, and it's done.
Yeah.
But you do have the option of the TRCs. The TRCs tend to stay open as a storm is bearing down up until when the winds get to a certain point. Then they close. But the TRCs are open every day of the week. They only close for 3 holidays a year: Christmas, Martin Luther King Day, and Independence Day. That's it. The rest of the time they're open, unless they're once in a while, and I'm talking like every few years, we might have one that's closed because we have to perform special maintenance tasks on it or something. We might have to repave or something. Other than that, they're open year round, from about 7 a.m. to about 5:30. That includes weekends and most holidays. Memorial Day is coming up, for example. They'll be open on Memorial Day.
Gotcha.
They won't be open July 4th, though. I'm telling you this now so you know.
Yeah.
If you're watching, July 4th is one of the 3 holidays they take. But you can take stuff there if you can't, if you can't manage a bulky pickup, or if you can't get the bulky pickup in time. So that's always an option.
It's important to do that now, because if you don't trim the tree and the branch falls and pokes a hole in your roof, then that's going to be more costly later. If you do trim the tree and you do it so late that you can't set up an appointment, well, now you got a loose branch in your yard, and if it's one of those like old oak trees and stuff that got those massive branches, that's gonna be floating around there. Do not, please, because this is gonna cause. This doesn't solve the problem. It just creates more of them. Do not illegally dump them somewhere in some lot, because we talked about that last time.
If you get caught, you can get fines. You can even get arrested if it's serious enough.
Well, yeah, if you've got something that's big enough that you can't just put it in your garbage bin, and you're chucking it over to that empty lot, in your neighborhood, then
you could potentially be liable if that ends up causing damage to somebody else, and they can manage to find a way to pin it on you through cameras or whatever. You just get the fine, possible arrest, possible confiscation of vehicle. Those are all penalties for people who illegally dump. And then there's, civilly, I could see somebody trying to make a civil case out of it. If my house was damaged because you brought, you live 2 blocks away, and you brought the tree limbs that you didn't want to, you waited till the last minute to get rid of, and you put them in front of my house, and now it damaged my house, I'm suing you.
Yeah,
if they can pin it on you.
And it would be catastrophic if, God forbid, somebody is hurt because then all of a sudden you're in some serious
that could be potentially. We're not lawyers here on the show,
right?
But there's a
lot of
potential problems, a lot of potential problems there. And nowadays, we have our hidden cameras in places we know where people tend to illegally dump, but a lot of people have Ring cameras or other doorbell cameras at their house. And police can easily request or even, if necessary, in an investigation, subpoena. And get those videos. And and if you're seen on that video doing this stuff, all bets are off.
Game over. Yeah. So, folks, please do a little bit of risk management. Prepare ahead of time. It's always better to err on the side of caution. Don't run the risk so that you don't have to pay for it later. With that, though, fortunately, we are out of time. So thank you for coming in today, Frank.
Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure to talk to you today about hurricane season that is going to be starting June 1st. So get ready, folks. Get your house in order. make sure that everything is set up so that you are prepared in case of a worst case scenario. We haven't had a really bad storm in some time, so we've been all right so far. But yeah, we'll knock on wood for that. But yeah, folks, this has been another show with me, Andres Pena, as your host, with Solid Waste Management, and thank you so much for joining.